Hello, welcome to another edition of Wrench Ride Repeat. It's been a couple days, it's been about a week or so since I made any content. Last Monday, about 2 weeks ago, I wiped out on my kayak and screwed up my elbow real good. So, I was laid up for a week there and couldn't really bend my arm or pick my nose or anything like that. So, what could I do, right? So today we're going to do a little basic carburetor, right? We're going to tear apart a constant velocity, CV, carburetor. Came stock on most Harleys in the 90s until they went to fuel injection, late 90s into the 2000s, and it's been CFI ever since. So we're gonna get into this carb and hope you maybe learn something, and hopefully we don't have to rebuild it. But we're gonna open it up. I buy these things at swap meets all the time, right? I can't resist. My buddy was at a swap meet today, and he sent me a picture of something, and I said, "Well, that's pretty good, but what about that carburetor behind what he was sending me?" And he's like, "No, I'm not going to help feed your addiction." And I said, come on, man. So you pick these things up for 30, 40, 50 bucks, and I tear them down, I rebuild them. We put them through the parts cleaner, make sure all nice, and then I sell them back off as a functioning carburetor. So it's a nice little thing to do, and maybe next time we'll do an S&S. I have a spare one of those sitting around that came with a shovel, and I haven't checked it out yet. So hopefully we'll be able to do that, and stick around. Okay, so here we are with a CV carburetor, constant velocity. And this one says 02 on the end of the serial number, so I'm assuming it came off like a Softail because they went to fuel injection in the late 90s and early 2000s. But there were some lower, lesser models, like things you really couldn't put all the fuel injection stuff on, that I think they still ran some carbs for a while. So this one looks like it's in pretty good shape. It's dirty, of course. I got the parts cleaner warming up. I'm concerned about this slide. Even though the slide works okay, it looks like it's plastic, and most of them are metal, aluminum. So, without any further ado, let's tear into this thing and see what's going on. We get this floppy choke cable out of the way first of all, and we're going to clean that. Where am I at here? We're going to clean that little needle out. That's your enrichener, right, or your choke. This one is good. It has a brass elbow on it because most of them come with a plastic one with a brass kind of knurled insert. And the plastic's crap and they break, and then you're leaking fuel all over the damn place. So let's take the bottom off first. That way it kind of sits there, because if you don't, then it's it's doing all kinds of stupid stuff. So that sits there like that. Start pulling. Bob, you want a stool? Okay. Let's run these 4 screws out. Hopefully. Sometimes you get these and they've never been torn apart, and they are just a nightmare. So, I watched a guy yesterday. I'll give a shout out to Butler Customs in Tennessee, and that dude's, I guess I'm sort of like him, or he's sort of like me. Kind of reminds me of me, right, when he's working on stuff. So, when I tear a carburetor off, I loosen the cable adjustment, and I take the cables out of this, and just this comes off like this, like a whole carburetor. This dude left the cables on it, pulled the carburetor, and then took this plate off and left the cables where they're at. And I thought, you're a genius, because then you just put it back on. You don't have to readjust the cables and get your timing and all that stuff's right. So, all right, moment of truth. All right, hey, that's really clean. All right, boot's good, not dry rotted and cracked out too bad. I think, didn't I say I had a O-ring? Yep, and that's the right O-ring. Okay, great. So we'll replace that O-ring because they flatten out, and then they don't seal anymore, and then you lose it going down the road. So this one, this is like the one from Butler did yesterday. Really not too much to it. Take oh, sorry, I lost the thought of what that is. That's your accelerator pump plunger. That's what that is. Okay. So yeah, we can take the jets out and look at those. Make sure they're okay. I don't even know if I'm going to pull that float out. I should, because inspect that needle. So let's get into it. I'll pull this main jet. This little guy here. And yeah, it's a pretty big jet, so they don't usually clog up too much. And these little ones, this little guy down in here, this is your initial jet. Your low speed, I should say, your low speed jet. And that is just a teeny tiny little son of a gun. Now those teeny tiny little holes. You can blow through it and it'll, you know, it's good. It tastes like gas. So if not, I have these. Oop, not that one. I have these, they come in variable sizes and stuff like that, down to, you know, just a wire really, and it'll poke stuff out. You can use these. They might scratch the inside of that jet. You never know. But usually you just throw that in a baggie in the parts cleaner and put it in through with everything else. So hang those back up. Okay, so the jets are out. I'm going to get that emulsion tube out, so I need a wrench. Pull this guy out. This is your emulsion tube. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's just your jet tube. See, it's got holes in it too, just like that. And it's clear. And this main jet goes in there. I'm really surprised this carburetor's in this good a shape. All right, so get that. Now, this is the tricky part because I don't know if you can see it. If you can see it right there, can you see that right there, Bob? That little arrow?
Yeah.
Right there on the metal?
Yeah.
That means that pin goes in that direction. All right, so that pin is tapered, but just a hair. So when you punch it out, you have to punch it out from this side, and then you put it back in. Some of them come out just nice. Other ones, you have to kind of fight with them a little bit. So, and you have to be damn careful that you do not break that tower off. Right, these if that's why it's important you know which way that arrow is going, because if you break the tower off, that's the body, and you're shot. You're done. So let me see if I can get this on here. Crud. Maybe I need a smaller one. See, it's a little tricky to kind of get it to sit where you want it and see what the hell you're doing. Yeah, can you hold it? That'd be great. I believe it's going. Wow. Well, it's coming out, but not without a little fight. And I just broke the tower off. Well, folks, yesterday I had pulled a big bone move. I've done dozens of these carburetors and never had this problem before. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I watched another video on somebody doing a similar carb, and what they said kind of confused what I was thinking or what I thought I knew, and I did it backwards, and I ended up breaking off one of the towers, okay? So when you push this pin out, there's normally an arrow right here, but this one doesn't have it, and that arrow is to point the direction that you're supposed to tap this thing out of. Well, I don't know what the hell I was thinking, and I tapped it, and tapped it until it broke. I thought it was actually coming out, and the arrow was to point the direction to put it back in. Completely opposite, completely backwards. So, that being said, this carburetor has bad written on it. Bad, right? It's bad. That was an old carb I put together one time, and put it all together and put it on the bike and turned the gas on, and it leaks out of one of the front ports here. And I never could figure out. I talked to my mechanic guy that I've known forever. I've talked to a bunch of people, and nobody could tell me why that did that. And I thought on these ones it was kind of like maybe the newer ones where it had that brass tower that sticks out one of the for your accelerator pump, and it doesn't. So I thought maybe if it had that, I could pull that out. There's a little tiny valve in the bottom of that. So I don't know. I can't get into it any more than what it is, and never did figure it out. So that being said, I am going to attempt something that I really doubt is going to work, but I'm going to try it anyway, and that is to use some steel bond, some JB Weld. Right, so JB Weld, little tower right here. You can see the JB Weld there, and we're going to let this sit for 24 hours, and then see if we can put this carb back together. Right, it's like I said, it's a good carb. We're going to let that harden probably well over 24 hours, and then we're going to get some. I don't even know if I'm going to run through the parts cleaner, to tell you the truth, because it's really not too bad. You know, you can scrub that up with a brush and some contact cleaner or some WD-40 or something. So maybe I'll just do that while I'm waiting for this to dry. And so stick back with me, and we'll try and do something with this as soon as I let that dry a while. Thanks, guys. We'll see you in a minute. Okay, here we are, day 2. The bond held. All right, so we got our float in and our float pin, which was really surprising. I thought when I had to tap that pin in, that other tower would break. So we went through all that, and you know, me who preaches about manuals, never opened a manual for this carburetor to show you anything about it. So that being said, you know, we pulled the bowl off, we put a new gasket in there while we were in here, and let me just get him out of the way so I don't end up tearing him while we look at inspect the accelerator pump. So this carb is actually in very good condition. All right. 3 screws for the accelerator pump. It's not like the S&S where one of these accelerator pump cover screws actually holds the bowl on. So let me get that guy out of there. All right, they're all 3 the same length. Now watch, because I think, is this spring loaded? Oh boy, that sucker's on there. Okay, there it goes. All right, it is under spring tension because that's how your accelerator pump works. What you want to do is look at this rubber diaphragm. They dry out. Again, the horribleness of ethanol gas is not good on your system. So I'm not going to bother tearing that out because I don't have one to replace it with. And so we're just going to put this back together. Like I said, it looks good. There's a little check valve in there. There's 2 little O-rings in there. So if you do get a full rebuild kit, it comes with those 2 O-rings and this diaphragm. And so we're just going to put him back the way we found it. Okay. You want to make sure that spring doesn't bind up in there. You want to make sure that diaphragm doesn't bind up in there if you replace those 2 components. All right. And then we're going to get to something a little technical here in a minute. Oops. All right, let's get here lined up here. Oh, yeah. There we go. And I didn't drop the screw on the floor where it would disappear for eternity. All right, again, just snug, because they're a very light hex head on them, and they will strip if you put too much torque to them. So just make all 3 are nice and down, okay? We're going to put our accelerator pump lever back in. It goes right on the side here on the side of the plastic body. Somewhere. Okay, down in here. Sorry, folks. There it goes. Okay. So we leave him there. We're going to put this. I'm going to put a dab of Vaseline on this O-ring so it will stay where we want it while we put the bowl together. So put some little Vaseline on there. It won't hurt it. Actually, it's probably good for the gasket. Petroleum based. Okay. Vaseline. Now, when you put this back together, you have to get this lever started in this little boot. All right. So find a little boot hole. Try not to rip the boot as you're trying to get it to start. Okay. And up, and a gasket fell anyway. Son of a gun. Not enough Vaseline. All right. Let me see if I can cheat here and make sure he's all in the track. And it is. It was good all the way around. Look at that. No gaps. Went right together. Whew, lucked out. All right, let me put these bowl screws back in so we don't have another incident of that. Okay, run these in. It's not going to stop the flow, and you're going to get gas out of your overflow. Okay, so let's pull him back off again. All right, and with the... Oh, you can't see that. I'm sorry. So with the carburetor level, you want a 15 to 20 degree drop. All right, and that I could get the measure out, and we can measure it and all, but it all looks good. Actually, I use my digital level on my camera when I set these, so I'm good with how that looks. And let's get him back together. Again, trying to get that lever in that boot without the lever falling off the carburetor or not getting in the boot or the gasket falling off. Sometimes you got to have lots of hands. Very slowly. There we go. Okay, now we're ready. Okay, I want it once around the rosy here. Okay, so what I missed that I didn't put in the video was right here on the engine side of the carb. This is your air cleaner side. This is your air cleaner side. This is your engine side. There's your idle mixture screw. Okay, down in there. Some of the earlier models, I think they had that capped over, and you would have to like take a little drill bit and drill a hole in it and pop it out so you could get to this screw in here. So it's a little needle screw, and I'll take a picture of that too and put it up on the video here. And what you do is it has a O-ring in the very base down here, which is a nightmare to get out. So if you ever rebuild an entire carburetor, you're going to have a teeny tiny O-ring, sort of like the ones on the accelerator pump that goes in the bottom of this. A piece of wire you can easily fish that out with. Then there's a washer, a spring, and the needle itself. What you don't want to do is you don't want to bend it. You don't want to force this in here all the way. All right. So once you get it started, you'll feel that spring compress. You screw it down, and it'll just stop. Real light. Don't crank on it. And what that does is that pushes that needle up through the little hole right here in the barrel, and that's what sets your idle. All right. So what do they say? I want to mark this real quick. Well, I guess I can use those, huh? All right, so 1 1.5. Let me see. Does it say anywhere here, real quick? No, that's cable. Float level. Tilt cutter measure. Float level. Okay. All right. Does it not say about the needle valve? Oh, okay, that's accelerator pump. I don't know that this manual went into pulling your idle mixture screw because they do cap them off on the earlier ones. No, Okay, so they don't go in to set the needle valve. So I usually do a turn and a half, turn and 3/4 maybe. So if I'm looking there and I want to do, there's a half, there's one, there's a half, and a quarter. Okay, and what I was doing was I was counting a hole on the screwdriver as I spun it around. So that should be a base start, a base setting to get your bike running, right? You put this carburetor right on there and it should start right up. And then once it's hot, you know, and you go out and get that engine up to temperature, you might get them in here and adjust that screw, you know, in for if it's idling too fast, out if it's idling too slow. And but it's kind of a pain. Okay, so you got this thing on the engine like this. This is your air cleaner side. That screw is up underneath here, and your cylinders are going to be like right here. So you got to get up in here real fine with a small, thin screwdriver and make your adjustments. So if we look in there, we look good. This is your accelerator pump nozzle. It throws gas in. There's your emulsion tube. Okay, so now we're ready to flip it over and work on it. You know what? Huh! I put that accelerator pump plate on the wrong. Look at that. I'm having one of those days. I think it was maybe too much coffee. So, let me get this. I can't believe I did that. I was like, I'm looking at the bottom of this thing. I'm like, what are those holes? Those holes aren't supposed to be there. You ding dong, because you put the thing on wrong. This goes over here. Like that. And your spring fell out. So we can set the spring on there. And slowly center it up there. Okay, there's not a lot of spring pressure there, you know. It's just to return that little diaphragm when you roll on the throttle differently. Okay. I wondered why that wasn't lining up before. Okay, we're good. Put that back together. Like I said, no sleep or you know, or no sleep. I think that's what it is. Just no sleep. So they're all nice and tight now. Now we can flip it over. Everything looks good. When this is attached to the bowl, so when the bowl is out, there's a nozzle in here, and you can see it's just a little wedge. And you can turn this. It's pressed into the bowl. You can turn this to get that jet aligned to go right down the barrel, and that's optimally what you want. Okay, so now we're on the top. All right, and first we want to put the diaphragm in, your slide. Check your slide. I'm not real thrilled about this plastic stuff, right? You can't really tell how dirty it is. But the more important part is this guy right here. Okay, so check him. Make sure there's no rips and tears. Make sure it's very Gumby, right? And then don't mess with it too much. And that's the first part we're going to put in there. All right, and it's kind of keyed. And it only goes in one way. Pop. All right, and then we want to just pop that diaphragm into its track all the way around. And it doesn't take much to sit there. Okay, then we take this guy. I'm going to lean him here. Okay, somebody's been in this carburetor before, okay? There are washers built up here, and there's a washer on the top here, and that changes how much fuel, you know, when you open this up, and this opens up in your emulsion tube, right, from your main jet, this opens up, and it gets thinner as it gets to the bottom, so, oh yeah, that's a different tube altogether. Most of them are tapered down, right, all uniform. This one is got a real thin, I don't know what you'd call it there. So we're going to put him in. Somebody's been in this carb. That was just something else I wanted to show you real quick. All right, do I have an old slide? I do, somewhere. Here we go. Here's a metal slide, right? And what I'm trying to show you is the holes in the bottom. This is an older one. This is a newer one, right? So it's shaped differently, right? It's got more holes in it. And what that does is it creates more vacuum. On the older ones, if you wanted more performance out of them, you went and either drilled this hole bigger. I think that's what it does. You drill that hole bigger, and that'll help you get the vacuum faster response, you know, to getting your bike off the line there. So we'll just put him back there. This came with it, so I'm not going to mess with it, and I'm going to put it right back where I got it from. Okay. That sits down in there. You know, it's not like the gasket. It's not like the rubber gasket that really sits down in its track. Then you drop this guy down in. Okay. Okay. Manual says that the needle goes in first. So line your hole up down in there, drop your needle. Okay. And then we take the little crown looking piece here, crown down, so it sits on top of that needle. And then put the spring on, and the spring goes down over that crown. And I believe we are at a tricky spot now. Where do we have this all lined up? So this cap goes back on. These holes don't make a difference because that's where the screws go. Let me think. I don't see anything on here where that is different, but we'll check that out when we get to it. So we're going to push that down. Make sure your spring is on there's a little piece in there, a little tower. All right, just make sure that goes on there. See, it popped right in. There's no cranking it down or, you know, trying to get that gasket in. And then on most of them, this corner, they have an insert where the rest of the screws are shouldered. Okay, see how that is? So those go in all three other holes. Okay. And since they have their own shoulder, you still have to, you know, treat it with kid gloves. All right, so on to the next part. We want to put this guy back on here. So here, where's our empty hole on this side? Right, okay. Here's our empty hole. Here's your throttle cables. All right, and we want to get this, oh, where is that top hole? Okay, this is always a little tricky. So this sits on top of that right there, and then there's a screw in the side. So we just need to get, there we go. It's pinned, right? There's a pin right there. You can get it pinned. And then we take our short screw that's left over. You go in here just to hold that whole thing in place for a minute. Magnetized screwdriver strikes again. All right, so then tighten that down. All right, make sure that's clear. All right. All right, so you want that screw. That's your throttle adjustment. You want that to sit on there. If you put that on there, sometimes it gets bound behind there if you didn't see that. So that's good there. Don't tighten anything down yet. And I already screwed up. Like I said, you do these things enough and you think you know them, and then you're trying to put it together and make a video for people you have never met. And so we'll just get that out of the way now. Okay. Get that down where it's supposed. There we go. Kind of clicks into place. Now we can put that on there. I am going to have so much editing. All right, that one you can crank down because this thing is in place and lined up with that hole up there, I hope. Yep, oh, look at that, just perfect. So then the long screw out of the top, and it's a brass one, not a black one with a shoulder. It'll go in there. And we can tighten all this stuff down on the top. Okay. Everybody's pretty good here. Roll you over. All right, we only have two pieces left, and that's the enrichener and the intake valve. Do I still have my little hammer? I do. All right, engine side, intake side. If you can, and you do one of these carburetors, get this, right? Get a 90-degree elbow for it, because the plastic ones that come in now are junk. I think I mentioned that earlier. Excuse me, it's a plastic elbow with a brass insert, right? And that all fits in there, and they're horrible. So I want this to point towards my engine because my fuel line will be coming from this side, right? So we're just gonna, they're press fit. There's no O-ring or anything like that. Nice and easy. A little bit more. A little bit more. Okay, that's good. All right, so now we're set up there. Slide works, right? Pulls your needle up. Nice and easy. This carb probably runs pretty well. So flip them over here on this side, and here's your throttle, or your choke, or enrichener, depending on how you want to call it. And this can be a little tricky because you got to get that needle down in there, and then you got to compress the spring, and then get it all started. I think taking it apart is harder than putting it together. Nice and easy. You can feel the threads grab. It might take a couple tries. Make sure you get it in there. Yeah, there it started. And then you can just twist it around. And actually, I think, no, this one doesn't do it. So you will have to get in here with some needle nose pliers and tighten that sucker down. All right. There's your enrichener. All right. This will come out to your engine side. Right. And there's your, you really can't see anything. It doesn't do anything. It's internal. But that's your choke. All right. That looks good. That plastic ring isn't broken, which is notorious for those things. And then this slot here is where you put your brace when you put it through the engine on the other side. So that's about it. I mean, that's the whole carburetor in a nutshell. If you have a vacuum operated petcock or you run Vos, this is your vacuum line. You pull that nipple off there and put your hose on, and that'll operate your vacuum petcock, which I hate. So that's about it. It opens and closes real nice. All right. As you saw, the slide goes up and down real nice. I hope I'm getting all this on camera for you guys. And this sucker is ready to go back on the bike. You know, you get your O-ring there. Let me see if I have one just to show you real quick. I do. So here's your intake. All right. Here's the O-ring. All right. Inspect these. Make sure it's not dried. Make sure it's not cracked. This one's a little worn. I did my wife's last year, and it had a slot. It had a slice in it. Right. So very sharp edge. And so you put this over the intake. All right. Just slides in there. No clamps or anything. And then this will be on the bike. All right. And it should be hard mounted with your intake clamps and everything like that, so it shouldn't move on you. And then this side just fits right in. Just kind of pops in there. This one actually is a tight fit. Right, okay, there we go. So it's sealed up pretty well. And you mount that on the bike and you're ready to go down the road. Like I said, there might still be a little adjustment on the bottom there for your idle or your idle screw. And but that, folks, is about it for now. I don't see anything else we need to do to this. And what we could do, or what I came with here, was this is an adjustment lever, right? There's a little longer guy. I hope you can see that in there. And it has a little knurled knob on it. And that'll replace this screw. That way you don't have to like get in there under the gas tank and try and get this idle, your idle to adjust. And this is your speed idle. This screw actually, does the same thing. Like I said, everything is in the manual. It'll tell you how to set this thing up. It'll show you exactly what I just showed you. And hopefully you learned a couple things. So I think we're done. So I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, fill out the comments below. And if you like what you see, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe. It helps my channel grow. And we'll be doing some more interesting stuff in the future. The carburetor stuff, it's pretty simple stuff. There's just a lot of pieces to it. Just like I said, follow the manual. It gives you a parts breakdown, how everything fits together. It's really not too bad. You can pick these up at a swap meet for, they're junk, they're dirty, they might be missing the bracket up here on the top, or they might be missing the choke cable. You might be able to get them for 25 or 30 bucks. So get them, bring them home, tear them down. If you want to do a full rebuild on something like that you find at the swap meet, I'd probably get a rebuild kit. They're about, 25, 20 bucks. Replace all those little O-rings, replace that gasket, and put it all back together. It might come with a new skirt. Just put it all back together real nice and neat, and run it and see how you do there. And that's about it. So until next time, folks, I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time on Wrench, Ride, and Repeat.